we're coaching you for a seed camp presentation, or we're coaching you for this pre-seed round. Mentoring is actually a long-term process. Often it's years and years. People have mentors, decades often. A real good mentor will be with you 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So that's one way to decide, have you been mentoring this team for 30 years or 20 years? If the answer is no, it's been 3 days or 30 days, then you're probably actually coaching, not quite mentoring yet. But let's look at the other categories as well. It's not just time, but structure. In terms of structuring of how a coaching session versus a mentor session are different, coaching sessions are very structured. Just like a sports coach, they will have practice, very specific times, specific locations. It will be very structured. We're going to do this many minutes of this. We're going to do that many minutes of that. A mentor, often the structure is very informal. It will be chats, discussions. You might decide to get together for an hour, and instead you talk for 3. You might decide, oh, we're going to have this big discussion session of 3 hours, but you'll only do 15 minutes. It's very informal, that what you're doing with mentors. It's on your own time, completely and unstructured. Next category that I looked at was who leads the process. Who's the one that actually is driving the coaching and mentoring process? And the coaching process is driven by the coach. Just imagine, again, a sports coach, very much the coach says what's going to happen. And the players, even if they're multi-million-dollar contracts, they're supposed to listen. It's very simple. Coach talks, players listen. Mentor process is usually actually driven by the mentee. It's not by the mentor. The mentor actually probably listens most of the time and is quiet and reflects. It's the mentee that is the one that is presenting and talking and sharing impressions and things that have happened to them. So it is very different from that coach top-down type of process. Focus. The focus in coaching is on very specific objectives. You want to achieve a specific thing. That's what you coach for. To use the sports analogy, are we focusing on offense? Are we focusing on goal scoring? Are we focusing on passing? With startups are we focusing on sales? Are we focusing on B2B sales? Are we focusing on specific enterprises? There's a specific objective that you're driving towards. In mentoring, really the focus is on the overall development, and not just overall development of the startup, but also the overall development as a human being. What kind of books are you reading? What kind of podcasts you might be listening to? What good theater have you seen? All of that is part of an overall development of that mentee, that human being as a leader, and of that startup as a whole as well. So very different kind of focus, much, much larger as a mentor, much tighter and specific and business outcome driven, very specifically as a coach. Relationship. What kind of a relationship? Usually the coach player or coach startup CEO is a very professional relationship, very clearly defined. Mentors often are friends and lifelong friends. Ideally, the person will be with you, like I said, 10, 20, 30 years, your whole lifetime. You might have a mentor. So often it is a personal relationship of friendship, not just of providing information within a very specific realm, like an incubator, accelerator, even as investor. I might not be a mentor necessarily. In terms of tactical versus strategic, coaching is very tactical. Yes, there's a game strategy, but specific actual coaching, hands-on coaching is looking at different tactical challenges. Mentor is looking at it very strategically, again, as a lifetime of development. Maybe not even one necessarily startup, but a lot of mentees might be serial entrepreneurs, and you are coaching them in the whole entrepreneurship life cycle, which might involve 4, 5, 6 startups. So not even necessarily focusing on one startup or one type of startup, but their whole overall development is often part of what a mentor does for a startup CEO. And finally, then also there's the issue of what's the primary dynamic? How does it actually take place? And coaching is usually telling and showing examples, describing, while the mentor usually the dynamic is generally listening. You're taking in all of this information from your mentee and reflecting on it. Maybe occasionally asking sort of open-ended questions, sometimes leading questions, but most of mentoring is listening and asking questions. In coaching, it's almost the opposite. Most of it is telling, showing, describing, providing examples. So this is an overview, sort of top of the line overview of the difference between coaching and mentoring. And I have a feeling that most of you are actually probably doing coaching in your jobs, and some of you are probably doing coaching and mentoring. But I'm thinking that coaching is predominating in your tasks. If we could have the next slide. So if you're going to do mentoring, and to not do coaching, it's important to set the expectations at the start, because if one person is thinking that they're going to get a mentor and the other person is thinking, okay, I'm going to coach them, then there's going to be clearly somebody's going to be dissatisfied, maybe both. The person who wants to mentor and the person who wanted coaching, neither is going to get what they want, and vice versa. So it's important to set these expectations from the beginning. So you're talking about the same thing, right? So there's not the lost in translation situation. And that's why I actually wanted to bring out what the difference is, because the difference is really dramatic between coaching and mentoring. But let's say it is about mentoring, and you want to mentor a person, and the mentee understands that, I'm not looking for a very specific outcome here. I want to grow as a person, as an entrepreneur. I want to grow, and I need a mentor for that. Then I think sitting down and setting expectations at the beginning is vital. Can you click more? I think I should have some. Yeah. First, exactly. Two more, I think. You want to sit down and ask these questions from the very beginning, so that everybody understands that you, in fact, are doing mentoring, and to discuss what the process will be like, so that both of you will be satisfied with the outcome. How often do we meet? Basic things like that. All right, is this going to be a once a week, once a month, once a year thing where we check in and discuss? Where do we meet? How formal is this going to be? Am I going to come to your work? Are you going to come to my work? Or is this going to be like, a lot of mentoring actually happens in pubs, right? It's over beer a lot of time. Other people might do it in a coffee shop, right? And it's usually over coffee or lunch or dinner, or I don't know, go to dim sum on a Sunday. You eat out Chinese and you discuss how things are going, and see how you can help develop. Help this person develop. Once those things are in place, then you of course have to discuss also, well, why are we meeting? This beer is nice, or this coffee is nice, but what's the purpose? Where do you want to grow in this relationship? And then finally, I think it's really recommended to set out a very specific outcome. This is what I'd like to get out of this relationship. If both sides agree on what the desired outcome is, then there won't be any disappointment. You also know when you've reached the outcome or if you're not reaching the outcome. So whether you should, meet more or less or not at all. And setting these out up front, I think, saves a lot of embarrassment or uncomfortable feelings, because the mentor often will be a more senior person with experience, with community standing, maybe an opinion leader, and you don't want to piss that person off, and you don't want to leave it on a bad note and a bad relationship. You want this to be something that helps you as a startup. So agree on the outcome from the beginning, and then everybody knows whether it's going there or not, right? And I put in parentheses for both, because I've seen this happen quite often. The startups and startup CEOs often are quite clear what they're going to get out of it. They're going to get access to your network. They're going to get maybe your recommendations, your warm intros. They might be able to put your picture and name on their slide as an advisor. There's lots to be gained from it, right? But something that's often forgotten is, well, what the hell is the mentor going to get out of it? If the mentor doesn't get anything out of it, how motivated are they going to be? How much are they really going to put in their time and effort into it if they don't get anything out of it? So discuss also, why is the mentor doing this? Are they doing it to learn about new technology? Are they doing it to purely as a volunteer help thing? Are they trying to build skills in the whole ecosystem? Are they trying to meet exciting founders? Are they trying to get back in touch with executing? Because sometimes the mentors are now just investors or retired or whatever. They might want to get a taste of the game again and refresh their excitement for technology or startup world. So to discuss that, set those expectations in the beginning, and then people are less likely to be disappointed. If we go to the next slide, I wanted to remind everyone also that the mentors really value and why is it that a mentee even listens to the mentor is usually proportional to their achievements and experience. A coach might not have very much experience and yet can be extremely useful. They have taken classes, they received an MBA, they have received their own training programs, they know what to recommend, they've seen a lot of cases, but that doesn't mean that coach is yet a good mentor. If a CEO, a founder, wants to discuss how is it to build a unicorn, it's going to be very, very difficult for the mentor that has never built a startup to discuss building a unicorn. They've never built up a startup, Maybe all their startups were not successful. It's going to be difficult for that person to discuss from a standpoint of value and authority. Just like it's really hard for a somebody who is 50 kilos overweight to be your weight loss leader. They won't have the value and authority perceived that is necessary to inspire you. The same way a guru that is trying to bring you peace of mind, but yet you see he's clearly stressed out and running all over the place and his life is totally disorganized, they don't have a lot of value or authority when you go to them to ask about bringing peace of mind to you. So it's really the mentor's achievements, the personal things they have done and experienced. If you have raised an A round, you are good probably for mentoring someone on raising A rounds because you've actually lived it, you've seen it. These are special experiences and they go deep, and it's a combination of skills and emotion. And if all you've done is listen to some podcasts, then maybe you can be a coach. You can say, yes, all these podcasts say you should do this or you should say that. But if you've never done it, or if you've just done it once, it's going to be difficult for you to really give a lifetime's experience and perspective on it. So mentors really should mentor in the areas where they have the achievements and the experience, right? I don't know how many people would take me seriously if I started mentoring on childbirth, right? Like, well, you need to breathe more. And oh, it hurts so much. I have no idea. I mean, maybe I've read about it. Maybe, I've seen a movie, but I wouldn't be much of an authority and therefore not a lot of value probably to be your lifetime mentor on childbirth. So go to a mentor that's actually done the things that they're going to talk about and achieved the things that they want to get you to achieve. Sounds silly, but a lot of the time people will look for a mentor just based on their name or fame or I don't know what. And they haven't really looked at, well, what are the actual experiences they're going to help me with? So I recommend doing that. Again, managing the expectations up front, seeing what is it that they're an authority in. I recommend doing that, agreeing on it, and then pretty much sticking to it unless you see the person is capable of mentoring in other areas as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are some topics that I think I've got 3 or 4 more there. These are some topics that startup mentors can really contribute a lot when having discussions with startups, right? And I think the difference between mentoring and coaching will come out because I also did the next slide about some topics or areas of contribution for coaches. If we're going to talk about to a mentor, then financing and fundraising in a startup as a topic is something that is great for mentoring. A good mentor will discuss not just, oh, this is your current round, this is what you should raise. A good mentor will say, be careful. If you raise this much in this round, the expectations in the next round will be 3x, and the one after that are 3x of the previous, all of those multiplied together. Are you sure you can do this? Can you grow at that rate? Can you hire at that rate? That's where the mentor's lifetime of experience and having done it before, they can see the 3 steps ahead. They're playing that 3D chess, not just looking at the amount of financing, but also looking at what does this do to your cap table? What does this do in terms of leaving enough ownership for the founders? What does this do in terms of attracting top tier venture companies? What does this mean 7 years from now when you start to exit? How much dilution has there been? And taking all of those and many more things, all of them into consideration, a good mentor can discuss it holistically, that this is what smart fundraising for one startup would be like, right? And discussing this holistically, again, as a continuing process, that's something a mentor can be extremely helpful with, instead of just saying, hey, the right valuation in this round should be this, or don't give up more than this when raising this round. Looking at it, as a process. Scaling a startup from founding to all the way to IPO or M&A exit. That's a great mentor type of discussion, because there's many things that will happen along the way. And I remember when I was talking to Hardy Maybaum of GrabCAD, and he had just published his book, and he told me that, oh, I've got all different kinds of business models that we tried in the book. I said, well, how many are in there? He said, well, I think like 26 or 28. And I said, wow, it took that many to get to the right one. And he said something brilliant at that moment, and that was, no, a lot of them were the right one for that stage. And there's a big difference. There isn't necessarily one correct business model for a startup for its whole lifetime. It might be very ineffective if you try to take that one model and use it throughout the startup's life cycle. You might have to start with one business model, develop into another one as your business grows. You change clientele, your product changes. You again have to change those models. So talking about this in a holistic, in a complete sort of way is a great thing with mentors that have that kind of 20,000 meter view, sort of the satellite photo that they can see the whole startup's life cycle, and if needed, then zoom into topics. But they're able to zoom in and out completely and see how these things have an effect on the total value of the startup. The same with networking. How do you build, not just, okay, how do I get an introduction to this one investor? Or how do I get introductions to just A-round investors? But how to build, a mentor should be able to help that CEO with how to build effective networks in general. What kind of relationships do you need to have with people? Some mentors favor just spamming, just having volume. Others talk about relationships deeper so that your emails really get responded to and people concentrate and think about helping you. There's all different strategies here, but there's different ways of building your networks. Hiring, another one. Mentor is great at thinking of, well, how do you actually attract top level talent to your company? Not just, how do I hire a CTO next week, but how will I be able to hire? And I remember before we invested in Verif, for example, we saw that Karel had to hire close to 300 people in 1 year. So leaving out holidays, that's essentially one person per day getting hired. That's quite a challenge. Every single day hiring a person while still maintaining the startup's culture, right? That the people are still feeling like a team, working together, getting along and being inspired by each other. But every single person, there's a new face that's showing up and that you're integrating and that you're hiring and deciding how much to pay and how to get him to best work with the team and everything else. That is a big topic. Hiring in general, growing, from a one-person team to 10 to 100 to then 1,000. Each of those steps, orders of magnitude, will require different approaches, different messages, different skills. And a mentor is the kind of person who will work with you throughout that life cycle to make that happen. And the same with marketing and sales. It's not just, okay, how do we get 1,000 looks next week or 10 more clients, but how does marketing and sales for a startup work in general? What are we doing this year? What do you need to do next year? Who do you need to hire? And what kind of sales do you need to do 5 years from now? And so that should sort of point out some of the topics. I mean, there's more and more topics, obviously, that mentors cover, but these are definitely the ones that I've seen a lot come up. So if we go to the next slide, then these are some of the topics that startup coaches can contribute. As you can see, click maybe one more time. As you can see, these are more focused. And if you think back to my initial slide, talking about the difference between mentoring and coaching, then coaching is more specific, more targeted, and more tactical. And here, for example, a coach can really discuss, slide deck. What should be in the slide deck? What about the content? What about the design of the slide deck, right? What are the key messages in the slide deck? Pitching, what's the content? How are you going to pitch? How are you going to deliver? Let's practice it together. Very specific type of task again. Customer journey design. How do we make this checkout process frictionless? How do we make the whole website experience frictionless. These are fantastic topics that coaches should work on with the CEOs. A lot of people, will go out and do marketing, but aren't doing it in a disciplined way. So I think startup CEOs need a lot of coaching on how do we track the cost of acquisition from Facebook, right? We're not just going to pour 500 euros to Facebook and see what happens. How do you track the cost of acquisition? How do you track the click-through rate? How do you track the churn? How do you use cohorts properly? These are topics for coaches to explain, coach, help, train the CEOs, right? The B2B sales process, what are the key drivers in the sales process? Who are the key people to talk to? How to increase the gross margin? How to increase the license numbers and sales? Who should I be talking within that organization to get sales going, in a much more scalable way? And same in hiring. How do I get a Node.js developer? What about a front-end developer? What about UI, UX? How do I get a good designer to join the team? These are all great topics for coaches, and helping and making those recommendations. So as you can see from that, the topics are more sharp, more, I think, focused, more specific. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking your mentor also some of these things. And in fact, you'll probably have a little bit of crossover. But the main thrust of coaching are these kinds of topics, things that can be solved in shorter periods of time. And the main thrust of mentoring is things that usually take longer to solve, sometimes a lifetime. And that's why also the relationships are different and may last also a lifetime. Okay, so next slide. All right, so at this point, happy to take questions, discussion on mentoring versus coaching. Either one. Happy to answer, share my experience with one or the other or both. Do we have any? Jana, will you check the messages or whatever? Call out any questions if there are any.
I don't see any messenger, anything in the chat yet.
Beautiful. I have been crystal clear and supremely understood. That's fantastic. I love it. All right. So the shy ones can email me too at any time. Ask me any questions, and not just today or just going forward, right? Fine. In the interest of time, now I want to take up the second topic, scouting for unicorns. Okay. Nowhere in the previous topics of coaching or mentoring did I say, looking for unicorns is one of the topics or your goals, right? That's because I think it's a whole completely separate topic, and it is very much a very limited number of people that really are out there doing real unicorn hunting. Next slide, please. And the reason is that unicorns are supremely, incredibly, super rare, okay? They're literally 1 in a million. If you look at all the companies there, I did a donut chart. This is on US data, for example, from last year. New companies formed, 800,000 new companies in America. How many of those 800,000 were VC funded? 10,000. So that little orange matchstick up there is venture funded companies. Does that mean that they're going to be unicorns? Absolutely not. That little tiny matchstick is just those companies that were good enough to get venture capital, right? That actually got investment from VC funds. So how many of those are going to make it to unicorn? Well, turns out, if we take the 10,500 VC-funded companies, then something like 1 in 580 of the VC-funded companies becomes a unicorn. So 8 out of the 10,500, about 8 will become unicorns. And of course, the 8 out of 800,000 is just about the same probability as you going out and buying Viking Lotto tickets or Bingo Lotto, right? And just randomly picking random numbers and you winning is about the same probability as professionals picking unicorns. So that's why I said it's a very, very extremely ultra rare event. This is also why people are so excited about the Baltics, because clearly we are more than just lucky, right? Having the 5 unicorns that are tied to Estonia and having Vinted, the 6th unicorn from the Baltics, is more than representative of any statistical, probability. When taking that there's 6 million people here and having already 6 unicorns, that is well in advance of other European nations and is getting up there to the likes of UK and Israel. And that's also why a lot of investors are interested in the Baltics, because something special is going on here. But overall, the unicorns are extremely rare. If people tell you that they're able to identify and see unicorns, then whether they're talking about startups or real unicorns, you got to question their sanity. It's very, very difficult to do. If we'll go to the next slide. There are some unicorn hunters that have done it successfully. And if you look, the likes of Tiger or Sequoia, those guys have done it 20 plus times. But of course, they've also been in business for, 20, 30 years, have the most capital under management, the very smartest venture partners, some of the very smartest also entrepreneurs. Once they have their exits, they go and become partners, just like Hardy Maybaum became a partner in Matrix right after he exited GrabCAD. So you have the very smartest investors together with the very most successful and the smartest founders. Those are the partners at the likes of Sequoia, Kleiner Perkins, and those kinds of shops. So it's not surprising that they will also have a lot of unicorns, because the best deals will go there. They're the most known and they have the most money. So in every category, they are the best. And that's where the best startups and the best companies will also probably go to. And as they get the first pick, the pick of the litter of the very, very best, clearly their ability to pick unicorns is pretty good. It's much higher than for regional funds and investors. Next slide. Really, when I think about hunting for unicorns and what it's like, it really, really resembles to me these guys. If you look at the pictures that I have there on the slide, what those guys are unicorn hunters in sports. The guys there watching the basketball player, the guys there with the little speed guns, they're measuring baseball, the speed of baseballs being thrown a lot of the time by pitchers and by basemen. If you look at the hockey guys taking notes on face-offs won, other issues, or look at the football guys looking at quarter-mile speeds, etc. This is basically a similar thing than startup investing. These are sports scouts. Nowadays, after Kevin Garnett went straight to the NBA from high school, and other basketball players have been able to do that, jump straight, as a 16 or 17-year-old, straight into the NBA. and dominate even at 17 and 18 in the NBA. Same has happened with some hockey players and same with football players. They have to now recognize who's going to be the next million or 100 million player based on kids that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, right? Scouting, professional sports scouting starts for baseball players now in Little League. And by age 12, the good players have, dozens of scouts from around the world flying in for all their games. They're scouting for those next level baseball players. They're trying to lock in contracts with those players because later on they will be 100 million plus contracts sold. So that's essentially what you're doing in unicorn hunting with startups. Just like these guys are watching these players develop and take shot after shot after shot, unicorn hunters are watching startup CEOs start another enterprise, start another one, and then within each of those projects, they do a launch, they do another sales, they do A round or pre-seed, they do seed extension. And all this time you're tracking their statistics the same way that these guys are tracking every single shot every time somebody catches the ball. Next slide. And the metrics that we're following is basically MRR, monthly recurring revenues, month-on-month growth, how, it gives you the trajectory of how fast these startups are growing, monthly active users, how many new people are coming on and using, cost of acquisition, how is the dynamic, how much does it cost to bring each additional person onto this platform, lifetime value, how much is earned from each new customer, churn rate, how much they're dropping off all the time. And we use all the different cohorts, from all the different weeks of your different releases, how much these people fell off, how much those people fell off, what about a year ago, what about 3 years ago, etc. Burn rate, watching how much you're spending on making all of this happen, and many, many, many other statistics. The same way like the sports guys will have sheets and Excel tables, everything, weight, speed, results, shots, everything. We have everything on these startups that we are following all the time throughout their life cycle and throughout their different startups, because most entrepreneurs will go through quite a few iterations before they hit it big. Next slide. So to give you sort of an idea for your own startups that you might be meeting, a good rate, sort of a rusikaregel, as they say in Estonian, rule of thumb in English, to see whether somebody is on track, is that kind of 5% a week growth. About a 20% a month growth. If they are continually doing that, 20, 20, 20, back to back to back to back, you're on to something, right? This might be a startup. Doesn't mean they necessarily are, but it's a good indicator, sort of the first flag that goes up that, okay, these guys are on to something. Usually in pre-seed and seed, it's still too early to tell because there's no product market fit, but this is the first indicator, 5% a week, 20% a month, and back to back. Not just 1 month, but again and again and again, so that you have continuously month after month this happening and you're on to a potential unicorn. Next slide. And you're, like I said, you're looking at this startup builder like you're looking at an athlete building up, his career. You're looking at how is this startup CEO putting together this business so that it can have the right trajectory in money, in customers, in workers, staff, talent, to actually continue the growth and scaling of this startup. How are they building this house? How are they building this business that it will be able to make it to unicorn status. Next slide. And what we use is Osterwalder's business model canvas, basically, from the business model generation book that's now become a classic, as much as anything can be a classic in the startup world. You know, after 15 or 18 years, it's still being read, it's still being used regularly, and tracking in all of these different categories that you see, the basic metrics, sort of, this is the sort of the minimum set of values, right? You're tracking the customers, you're tracking revenues, channels, relationships, costs, partners, activities, and what the value proposition is with each iteration. That's how you can see whether the CEO that is building that house, whether the CEO that is building that business is building it to be on track to be a unicorn. Next slide. And really where you know that they've hit something is called product market fit. It's not just growth anymore, but now they have found the product that they don't really need to tune much anymore. Now it's going to be changes on the edges, but they've discovered something where the value for the customer is so big that new ones are coming on, people are recommending it to others, people are buying and telling others to buy, and it becomes a coin-operated machine. You put in money on top, bringing people in with ads, and twice as much or 5 times as much money comes out in the bottom. You put it in the machine, pull the lever, 5 times or 10 times more comes out, right? Each time a person is brought onto, Spotify, how much is that value to the company? Each time somebody goes to Slack, and signs up for Slack, how much value is generated for the company? Each time somebody signs up for Dropbox, how much money is generated for the company? These companies have all reached that product market fit. They found the product that works for them. They found a business model that works for them. But in startups, that is often elusive. The moment when product market fit happens is usually the A round, before the A round. And in fact, that's often what the startup raises money for, is saying, a successful A round pitch is, we have found product market fit. This is our value proposition. This is what we offer the customers. This is why the customers like it and buy it. Look at the numbers. They keep coming back. Now give us money to rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and just constantly grow the volume of a known thing. And that's the diagram here, the value proposition and customer profile, where those two meet, to where the pains and gains are met by the product in a sufficient way that the customer hands voluntarily money over, right? If they're continuing to hand this money over, this is a scalable, buildable business. Now just need to bring more people, so more money will be handed over. And once you've gotten that product market fit, you can become a unicorn, right? And this is a landmark, a signpost along the way. If you are still looking for product market fit, nobody knows. And you're definitely not yet at unicorn status, or not likely to be if you can't find that product market fit. Next slide. Here's, I wanted to bring a couple of examples of people who were able to find that product market fit in their startups. If you look at Duolingo, they were able to do something that Rosetta Stone and Berlitz have been doing for decades, maybe longer, right? Nothing new about learning, nothing new about languages. The Bible talked about languages, right? The Tower of Babel. But Duolingo did something differently. They were able to tap into these customers who wanted to gamify their experience, not just be lectured at or have the traditional type of tutor system or the class system or self-teaching from a book. But Duolingo did almost like a game, right? It's a little game in your pocket. And they were able to get enough gains and take away enough pains for those customers that suddenly you had millions and millions of people coming to Duolingo. In fact, you have to have millions and millions because their business model is that, you know, it's freemium. People get it for free. That's part of the beauty and the revolution of Duolingo is learn as much as you want. Go nuts. You know, learn any new language you want for free. Of course, you have some ads. You're going to suffer through the ads, but basically you can have most of the platform for free and use it and go for it. But Duolingo figured out that they're sticky enough, attractive enough, interesting enough. They grew so fast that they realized that the 5% that actually end up paying the $6.99 or whatever per month adds up to a lot of revenue because they have tens of millions of users. You know, even 5% is quite a bit. And they were able to figure out the product market fit and, you know, become a unicorn company. Next slide. You know, and here's an example of a close to us startup coming out of Sweden. Nobody would have predicted, right, that Sweden is going to be the place that is going to capitalize on music. Everybody would have said, hey, come on, America, music industry, rock and roll, right? Or maybe England, you know, Beatles. No, it came out of, you know, Stockholm. Why? Well, they've figured out a whole new way of delivering, you know, their value proposition. Sony had much more music. Spotify didn't have any in the beginning when they started. Sony had almost all, right? Same with Warner. And every other resource, artists, contracts, IP rights, the music itself, the platforms, the name recognition, the brands. But Spotify was able to provide a brand new value proposition and all you can eat music and free, so that you no longer had to even pay like Apple $9.99 per song. You didn't pay anything. You got all your songs for free and they were always with you. And it was a dramatic revolution, but music was still the same. It's just the way that it was being delivered, taking away the pain of paying for bad music and the pain of paying at all. And instead finding that, you know, X percent, you know, 5-10% of people are happy to pay the $6.99 and always have all the music ever they wanted available to them. They don't have to buy it. They just basically use it, right? And that was a revolution. And they also revolutionized how artists get paid for every single song, that it doesn't go through some kind of a national IP registry and unions and all of that. No, if the song is played, the artist receives money from Spotify, right? And being able to do all of that, launch it as a successful platform, find that people are happy with this value proposition, and that solved the problem of wanting to listen to music in a much better way than Sony ever could. Spotify became a unicorn. You know, you could have traced this along the way if you looked at, again, like I said, their growth statistics. If you looked at early on in pre-seed, you know, growing over 5% a week. If you then saw their product market fit in the A round, and then those statistics that I mentioned earlier, from there on, that constant growth in people's lifetime value, acquisition costs going down, virality of their offerings, you could have seen this unicorn coming. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, well, then being a venture capitalist is probably for you, or working in a venture capital company, because we are essentially just like those sports agents and sports talent scouts. That's what we are. We're agents and scouts of startup entrepreneurs, and that's what we do. Next slide. I think that should be it. Yep. So I'll take now the questions on the unicorn scouting, or you can go back and even ask about mentoring or coaching. It sounds like my brilliance has extinguished all ability to speak. And people are just in awe of the amazing information. I wish somebody would disagree with me, argue with me, or ask a question. I'd be happy to respond.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Does this product market
It's me, Yrjö from Tartu.
Wait, one at a time. Let's take the person who spoke first.
Yrjö?
Yeah.
Well, you said about business model, as usually investors are saying that business model is only the sales concept or how you are able to make money. But please let me not be agreed with you. Business model is concept, what is wider, and all aspects must be told if you say about business model. The partnerships, activities, resources, channels, whatever, and why very often this business model discussion goes so that only the sales concept is meant to be business model. Why it is so?
I think it's partly because of efficiency. I think a lot of the time people want to have, and this is problematic in general in startups. Everybody wants to be fast, quick. Let's get this done. Yeah, everything is there. Blogs are getting shorter and shorter. Websites have less and less information and more pictures. 140 characters on Twitter. Everybody's trying to be beep, 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 smaller. TikTok, 15 seconds. Less, and everything is like superficial. This drive to simplify and to have easy, simple responses sometimes drives, I think, these discussions to be too superficial. I would agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%, that a business model is much, much deeper and involves all of those things you mentioned, including, let's just take, for example, the Spotify example that I just mentioned. If you didn't include in the business model the relationships with the artists and the artists' organizations, right, and how you manage intellectual property and who owns actually these songs, how they can be reproduced, is it just video? Is it just sound? Is it notes? All of those topics, if you don't resolve those, there is no business model, right? You can't charge money and boom, there's the song. But having these kinds of multi-layered, deeper discussions are not necessarily conducive in a, oh, here's your mic, you have 30 seconds to respond, right? Usually in these kinds of events or even, online events like this, you have less than 90 seconds. And so everybody's simplifying, and these top of the line slogans and messages get out there. And unfortunately, it sometimes leaves an impression that things are actually a lot simpler or easier than they are. I totally agree that there's so many more layers to actually doing it right.
And I see that, thank you, Yrjö, and I see that Mihkel Hollo would like to ask the question.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
I have a question about this product market fit and definition of it. Does this mean that you should have already paying customers to have a product market fit or not? Is this like a prerequisite?
Okay, to not make the same mistake that I just flagged, to give you top of the line answer that's real quick, let me take just a moment here to discuss the complexity of this phrase, product market fit, right? It depends on who you're talking to, as with most things. If we're talking about product market fit on the canvas, it's one thing. It's another thing if we're talking about fundraising. Basically, I described earlier what investors talk about when they say that, oh, this company has found product market fit. What it means is this company has found a way to repeatedly make more money from offering service X, right, at a price Y and make a profit. Now it's just a question of how do we get more customers on here? How do we increase the X so that the bottom line Y is larger? And you don't have to tweak the product anymore. Everything is basically set, right? You have the game of World of Warcraft. People love it. Or you have the game of Angry Birds. People love it. You've developed a game. Now the question is, how do we go from 1 million users to 100 million, right? The fit is there. How do we now market it in China? How do we sell it, or how do we convert and get people to actually pay for something in Latin America, etc., right? But the game, the product market fit itself is there. People are willing to go and shoot pigs, right? That's there. So another way that product market fit has been described that it might be useful is I've heard some people say, look, this is the moment when you can send out other people to sell. In other words, it's not the founders that go out and explain what is it that the startup does, but the startup has defined its product, its service, everything so well that they can now go out and hire a person at not a very high salary necessarily, just a salesperson, give them all the materials, give them the script, and give them everything, and that person can sell as effectively as the founder. That means you've already answered all of these important questions, that you can create a script, that you have found that fit, you know what the product is, you know what the people pay for, you know how much it costs, all of those things are set. So that's another way of measuring, is there this fit? You know, can you send a random person out to sell for you and have them be effective? And going back to now your question, does it mean that you have to charge? Usually I'd say yes. In some rare circumstances, it might be no, that you can give away things for free, but you should already, you can have the fit, but you shouldn't be running, you know, free for, if you already have product market fit, that means somebody's willing to pay, right? You've already proven that it's a value to someone. So yeah, you should have for sure sales, and lots of sales and lots of repeat sales and month-on-month growth continuously. All those things are in the positive, and all of them are in the plus 20% range if you have product market fit. Otherwise you don't. I mean, and you'll know you have product market fit because you have so many people begging you to be on your platform. Please, you know, can I get it? You know you have product market fit, like with Clubhouse, when people are smuggling and trading secret invites to each other, right? Because everybody's like, oh, how do I get a Clubhouse invite, right? That's when you have product market fit, is when people are in line, are begging you, or calling you up, showing up at your office, like, come on, man, hook me up. How can I get on your system, right? Begging to be next in line.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any other questions? Then maybe because we are really very efficient, then I will make a really brief overview of Prototron process this year. And then I hope then you will have questions again, or you just mail Yrjö or me or whatever.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Just in case. Yrjö, please be so kind to share my screen, not my screen, but your screen with my presentation.
I'm trying.
I feel very embarrassed. I don't know what is the problem, but I will figure it out, promise you. And in Prototron, we take everything in Zoom.
It's our official platform. I don't know. For me, it just works so much better. You know, I just, for me, there's product market fit for business calls with Zoom, but not with Teams. I don't, there's too many things that I don't I'm not happy with. Yeah. And hence we pay for Zoom and we don't pay for Teams. That's the difference.
Yes, exactly. That maybe, I don't know what is the primer, but in some cases it's. But then we have wonderful Merja who can save us.
But somehow your presentation doesn't want to work either.
How'd you get mine to work, but not yeah?
Oh, mamma mia.
Maybe you can just start, and if I'm managing to
Okay,
share,
then I just start. Okay, so I just wanted to thank all of you because I see by the names that a lot of you have been as our mentors, and as Yrjö, some almost from the very beginning. And for example, I see Anu is here. She's also from the very beginning. So, and I just wanted to remind you that we have by these 8 years, and it's already 25 rounds has been done in Prototron. We have given out with all of our partners, we have given out more than 1 million euros. So it's 1,048,000 euro. I suppose it's very significant. And this money has been given to 86 teams. And this 86 teams has already raised as a fellow investments more than 36 million euro. So we still wait the announcement of co-module money raised to hit this number much higher. And as we have done always, that we have some certain steps when we narrow down the funnel of the Prototron applications. So as I mentioned, on the 25th of March, midnight, we will have the deadline. And I hope that there will be something around 300 applications. I really hope that there will not be 500 as we have had it in autumn, because it was a little bit too much for Prototron. And then we are running assessment. So it's again, a lot of you are helping us with reading all of the applications and putting out the comments, feedback, and the ratings. So by these ratings, we pick up top 50. Previously, we picked up top 40, but because of from spring 2020, Prototron is in Estonia and in Latvia, so we have extended this number because in 40 we cannot do it. Oh, my numbers. So you just can put the next slide, and I will be absolutely happy. Not this one, but with this funnel, the gray one. Oh, yeah, exactly. And then we have been done a very short program, but from 2020, because we have moved to the online, we have extended the program. And during the year, because of the very positive feedback from the teams, we always, like every round, we have extended the program. And I hope that this year this program will be really useful and really diverse for the teams according to their needs, and as we have got the feedback from them and from the mentors. But what is changing this year, that we would like to provide mentoring during the program. So before that, it was like we have had this top 50, then we have picked up, we have given them homework, then picked up top 20, and then delivered the mentorship. But the mentorship was already with the assessment. So mentors were trying to help teams, but at the same time, they were assessing them. And it also, again, has created the rating. And Yrjö, I'm very sorry, I just mute you.
Fine.
And then we just picked up top 10 or top 12 who has got the opportunity to pitch before expert committee, where, for example, Yrjö is represented. And this time, and we have analyzed the feedback from mentors and the teams, that it means that when the mentorship is just at the end, then it's like the dead end for everyone, because mentors, you can show, like, can suggest something, but then teams don't have any kind of chance to improve themselves or adjust their vector of development or whatever. And it's like, it was a little bit like frustration in some cases. So we decided that we try to incorporate mentorship from the beginning. And for us, mentoring is 20-minute slots. So it's when Merja will click to the next slide. Yes, thank you. This is the program what we have prepared this round, and I'm very thankful that a lot of you, I see that some of you are also the speakers during these workshops, and you have already confirmed that you will participate and you will share your knowledge. So we will start with the mentoring from the week, which is this investment documents. So we will be explaining how to create these documents, what we assume is really essential for the team. And already from that week, we would like to start with very minimal mentoring. And it will go during the 4 weeks. And then we will have 2 weeks when the teams are working and getting them prepared for the final pitches. They will have pitch training. They will have all kind of testing pitches and so on. And then we will run like our classical, Prototron classical, only mentoring sessions with ratings, which with how we will select this top 12. So next slide. This is how I was trying to create this scheme of how it can go. So the week which I mentioned with investment documents is the week when me and Janis are talking with all of the teams. We take 1 week and we talk with all 50 teams within a very short slots, but we try to understand what are the needs and what the stage they are, and what kind of other, like what kind of extra support or extra contacts we can share with them. And then is the coming out view, because what I thought how it can be, that there can be something around like 10 mentors who can be a little bit more dedicated during this round, for example. And I'm very happy that some of you already sent me the email that you are ready to take this journey with us and to try. I suppose that it can be like 10 mentoring slots for 20 minutes according to your schedule, but in 2 weeks. So as you can see, mentor 1 is saying during the week 26 till 29 that you will have, for example, on Wednesday, this period of time where we put together 10 time slots, or it's shared like in 2 days, and the teams are assigning to participate on your mentoring, to have your mentoring. So the mentor 1 make it 10 slots in 1 week, and then the week after the week, so the 10th till 14th of March. And then we will have this, so it is twice. So from those who would like to be this like very dedicated mentor, it will take you during the 1 month, take you 20 mentoring slots by 20 minutes. With transition, we make it like 25 minutes blocks. So it's about like 2.5 hours per 2 weeks. So in total, 5 hours per month. And then this period when it's 24 until 4th of June, this is our like a little bit extended because of the online platforms. It's a little bit complicated when we put all the mentoring sessions like in very intensive way, like the whole days and so on. So we just thought that we just make a little bit of space for this mentoring. Now, this is the mentoring already with a bigger pool of mentors, with very different mentors, when mentors mentoring teams and assessing. and it gives us the rating to pick up top 12, which goes to expert committee on the 8th of June. And then on the 17th of June, the teams, top 12 teams, will be pitching on latitude 59, and 18th of June, we will announce the winners on the big stage of latitude 59. So, and then this round will be over again. So this is the scheme what we try to implement and to pilot this round. And I will be very happy if you have some extra questions, or you say that it's too complicated, it doesn't work out, and it should be done a little bit another way. Yes. And yeah, and we have,
as Yrjö said, it's other coachings and mentoring.
Yrjö, maybe you can help me with this. Sorry. Please unmute yourself.
I think it's actually mainly coaching. I mean, what you're doing. But I'm at the same time, I don't want to get hung up on labels, but there is a difference, you know. Like in Estonia, there's the Estonian Business School, and they have a whole certificate program or even a degree program, I think, in coaching, right? You can do a degree in coaching, but you can't really do a degree in mentoring, because mentoring comes from your lifetime experience. So it would be like getting a degree in yourself, right? Like, I've had a lot of experience, I'll give myself a degree. It's not, but I mean, that's semantics. I don't want to get into the semantics, but it's just, if you're looking for resources, like, you know, what should I be coaching about? It's easier if you use the word coaching versus mentoring.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Yrjö, that especially as I mentioned this, like incorporated, okay, let it be mentoring during the program. It's really coaching. It means that we need your help to adjust teams like vector, like where do they go, because they're really in the beginning. And it worked out extremely well when we started to make this very intensive product market fit workshop, which is like really very, very big with the big homeworks, because this is what we discovered teams are really missing. And then when mentors are coming or expert committee are coming, then we cannot do anything if we do not deal with this from the beginning. So that's why we have changed it. And so yeah, I really think that it's more like coaching, and this last 2 weeks is maybe more like mentoring, because this is about like extra connections and extra maybe some points of view. And but I hope that this kind of program really helps teams to sharp the idea, because sometimes we see that idea is good and team is really can deliver it, but because of this lacking of mentoring or lacking of coaching or some kind of supervising, they're like a little bit like slipping over from the possible good road. And as I one day talked with Yrjö, I feel that what Yrjö said once it's extremely important, and I see that in Prototron it's really important, because we are in such an early stage that it's a disaster when we keep good team working with a bad idea, because then we just limit our talents to be developed, and we limit our countries to be developed. So that's why maybe this kind of early interruption and early, you know, there's some kind of flex that it's not good to do like this. Will save money and our talents from just working under the not very good ideas. Yes, Anu, I see that your raises up.
Yeah, I just got an idea that I wanted to share regarding this coaching that I have been doing in Prototron also for quite a few years already. It's you talked about how how we don't want good teams to kind of work with bad ideas, but kind of what I've found is that the difference between a good idea and a bad idea is exactly as hard to kind of understand as to kind of find the unicorns, right? So kind of what I've done while doing the coaching is rather to kind of maybe ask the right questions and try the team to get the answers themselves, rather than kind of after just 20 or 30 minutes say, okay, your idea is crap, and then move on, right? So yeah, I think that's perhaps a position for the mentors to do, which Yrjö kind of described, right? If you had a very long relationship with the team, and then perhaps behind a beer, you can say that, okay, your idea is really not going to work, most probably. Yeah, just an idea.
But I'm absolutely sure that, yes, mentors are not responsible for the team's idea, but mentors can give either good questions or put some kind of good examples or cases, you know, for the team to understand, like in what position they are and how it can be really done. And because I myself also mentoring and or coaching, I don't know exactly, but it's really what I like is to bring out the cases for teams to analyze themselves, to like to look at themselves according to the okay, how this idea worked out, because really, even if the idea is absolutely brilliant, then whatever can happen, like team cannot deliver it, and that's all. And nobody can do anything with this. But I really hope that that we can somehow support them, and not only with money. Raul, yes.
Yes, thank you. I liked Yrjö, your presentation quite a lot. And one point I understood was that mentor has to be some kind of superhero as well. But just to specify, we all have like a strong strengths and weak spots as well. So how do you couple the mentors with the right teams?
So this will be, so when we have done this intensive couple of days of the mentoring, then because of before that, I have already met with all of the teams and read all of their papers. Then I by myself tried, you know, to make the teams, because what was my initial idea is to give one particular team different aspects. So bank and legal, and somebody who has some insights in the field, or maybe who has because we have Ivar and Ivo and Heidi, they are investors, so they have somebody like this in their portfolio, or they have mentored someone. So just to have this like diverse of ideas and points of view. So this was my point. But it's very good question, because when we come back, I'm really a little bit worried again, because in 1 minute the session will be over. But that means that it cuts down, or what it means in Teams?
No, it doesn't. No.
Okay, I hope that we will not disappear. So please, like 5 minutes more. Now we are using Event Tornado platform, and it allows us to, like, what I have been done before when we have used this Google Forms, I was manually assigned the team and the assessor, like those who were reading the ideas. So now I hope that Event Tornado can do it automatically, but it means sometimes that, for example, some mentor who would like to read only health tech, then it might appear some not health tech ideas in this like first attempt. So, and then when we talk about this incorporated mentoring or coaching during the program, then it will be teams who will be assigning to you. So it means that if the team doesn't value this, we don't want, you know, like you to wait that, oh, okay, let's talk, and they will not never appear, or they're not so interested. If they're not interested, it's an opportunity for them, and if they don't want to use it, it's their fault. So Alexander, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I wanted to bring up is obviously when running through such a huge number of teams and ideas, we get biased after 3 or 4 meetings, I would say. And one thing I was thinking about that maybe we should separate on the early level the high-tech and low-tech ideas and low-tech and high-tech ideas, because obviously the mentors who can help out in this different areas are different. Another thing, I have been working with Nordic Startup School with their latest batch, and what I really loved about their mentoring sessions is that mentors or coaches like Yrjö went up, they are gathering after the sessions for a virtual coffee and sharing their feedbacks on the team before actually killing them or bringing them up in a way. And in many cases, when I was giving up on some team, for instance, or was too positive about some other team, the feedback from other mentors actually helped to realize it better, and the outcome was better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as you might remember, when we have had this mentorship or mentoring days in real life, then after that we have get together and get cup of coffee or couple and discussed and argued about like how to proceed. I just to be fair, that I was very shy always to ask you for extra meetings and extra coffees and so on, but let's try. I'm just I can organize, of course, and like schedule some kind of virtual coffees, and maybe like we can meet someday, like some year on latitude 59. Let's hope for this. Yes, it's I really like this idea about discussing, because really sometimes 20 minutes is not such a huge amount of time to understand the team correctly, and maybe sometimes we as the team of Prototron have some kind of insights, extra insights which we can share, and also the idea about to separate deep tech from not deep tech. It's I just a little bit like I don't know how to do it. I mean, and of course, I know some mentors, they are saying to me that please don't give me some kind of MRI analysis or analysis. Like for me, it's voodoo, and I cannot mentor them. So it's really I tried to be very with a personal approach, but. Because I can't imagine, I don't imagine cannot imagine how we can do it during the program. I mean the team of Prototron, because we are so small. But it's a good point. I will try to figure out it somehow. But maybe it will work out better if just mentors like point out that I really don't want to meet these ones because I cannot understand them. And it's okay. I mean, really, because as soon as we coaching or mentoring, we don't want to just to spend time. It's very nice to hear about some very extensive robotic technology, but if I cannot rely on any point in this topic, then why we just spend each other time? Yes. Thank you, Alexander. So, do you have any other questions? But then I'm absolutely thankful. I'm thankful for you that you were suffering of my not very good skills in Teams. In Prototron, fortunately, we use Zoom and Slack, and I'm very good in them. So then everything goes very smoothly. And I don't see if we have Yanis here. Yanis, are you still here? No, Yanis from Latvia. So we have divided that in Estonia, I'm your direct contact. And for Latvia, it's Yanis who can help you because he speaks Latvian. And if something very urgently, you can exchange your ideas in Latvian. So it's much more easier. Bless you. And also we have new hoodies. We are not very quick in ordering them because we have some I don't know why, but Marat, with whom we are doing them, is not very quick. But if you are interested to get them, then I will share the form. Unfortunately, we cannot do for everyone for free. But Yrjö, your hoodie is almost. I hope that it almost suit together in Marat, and it will arrive someday. But yes, the others, if you would like to have that kind of hoodie, I will just send you the form in the follow-up letter. So the workshop was recorded, and it will be delivered to you with a link, and also the link for the form for the hoodies if you're interested. And I will just, Yrjö, is it allowed to share your presentation with the mentors?
Yes, of course, fully. Yeah.
And I will put again my presentation. And again, if you have some kind of ideas or how we can do better together, then I'm all ears to get your feedback. So big thanks again from my side. And I hope we can go and continue to save the world on our everyday positions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.